Hey, welcome back to the show. Today we're going to talk about Pamela Smith, the DC police commissioner who just exited her post and gave a fiery speech saying F you to the haters.
So I'm going to the Bible when I say this to my haters. F you.
Now, the reason why I think this story is important is because it doesn't matter if it's a red state, a blue state. This is something that happens often. You have people like police chiefs and police captains and other police officials that are underreporting the numbers. And I think the reason why this is a serious issue that needs to be addressed at the federal level is because when they do that, it creates a false reality for us, the citizens. It makes us think that going out into our communities is a lot safer than it is. And then when violence happens against us, we're left not knowing really why. This is an issue that should be very concerning to us as citizens because we want to feel safe when we go out into our communities. Washington, D.C. was riddled with violence, but the reports didn't say that. The reports made it sound like it was safe. And we know, if you've been in Washington, D.C., you know that it wasn't safe. How many reporters did we hear talking about getting mugged as they left their news agencies?
Just in the past 6 months, there were 2 people shot. One person died, literally 2 blocks down here from the Bureau. It was within the last 2 years that I actually was jumped walking just 2 blocks down from here. And then just this morning, one of my coworkers said her car was stolen. It's happened to a lot of people in our building, sadly.
Now, since the report came out, Pam Bondi appointed the head of the DEA as the emergency police commissioner for Washington, D.C. Take a look.
In another huge step towards complete takeover of this city and the police by the Trump administration, Attorney General Pam Bondi announced yesterday that she was stripping authority from the city's police chief and appointing the head of the Drug Enforcement Agents, Terry Cole, as the city's emergency police commissioner.
At my directive, we have made Terry Cole now the commissioner over the police. He runs the entire show, keeping everyone organized, and they report directly to me, and I report to the President of the United States.
They were looking for an excuse to take full control of the city, and they found that in that House committee report, because the House committee report found that the books were being cooked.
Quite some news on Friday. A draft Justice Department investigation accusing the D.C. Police Department of sharing unreliable or inaccurate crime stats, all in an effort to make violent crime appear lower than what was actually happening on the ground in real life. Well, now another investigation, this time from Congress, specifically the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. It's making similar claims that the chief of police here in D.C. was trying to make it seem like, on paper, crime was lower in the nation's capital than it actually was.
I think anybody that's involved in underreporting something as important as crime in your community should be fired immediately. I mean, think about it. You go out there thinking that it's safe when it's not. How is that good for the citizens of that city? But it wasn't just the underreporting. It was workplace atmospherics as well. There were a lot of accusations of a toxic work environment created by Pam Smith.
The report is labeled Leadership Breakdown, how D.C.'s police chief undermined crime data accuracy. It specifically highlights a story from News 4's Paul Wagner, who reported in August about allegations of crime data manipulation. The report is based on interviews with D.C. police commanders who claim there are pressures on personnel to lower the classifications of crimes to create the impression that crime is low. It says in part that testimony from commanders paints a troubling picture of department leadership placing a higher priority on suppressing public reporting of crime statistics than stopping crime itself. The report says there was an emphasis on what's called the Daily Crime Report, which has 9 categories of felony offenses, and the chief was so preoccupied with the statistics of the select crimes that were made public that she incentivized her subordinates to lower those crimes by whatever means necessary. Commanders told the committee that they were pressured and at times directed to lower crime stats to lesser offenses so they would not be included in the public reporting.
And there are even reports of people being targeted for trying to report accurate information. Think about that for a second. You are being targeted for doing what you're supposed to do, for reporting the right numbers so that people know how safe the city was. Look, I hate to say it, but this is what happens when you put people in position based on what they look like or if it's a first instead of the merit that they earned in order to be put in that position. I'll give you an example of that. What if I was a political official and I said, I want to appoint somebody to this important position that is responsible for safeguarding, for the safety of the community, but he has to be Hispanic. That is not right. You should not be picking people based on the way they look or it being a first. I can't assign somebody to that position simply because that person will be the first Hispanic to hold that position. How does that make the community any safer? People who are in positions that are responsible for our safety and our security should not be picked based on the way they look or it being a first. That is the bottom line. When you do, this is what happens.
Well, DC Metropolitan Police Chief Pamela Smith is going viral for all the wrong reasons. Now, she previously served as the department's first chief equity officer, where she led the department's efforts on DEI. And now she's going viral because it appears that she didn't understand the question from the media about the department's chain of command.
What the chain of command is now?
What does that mean?
Well, is it Pam Bondi speaking to the mayor, speaking to you, or how does this work?
So the executive order is clear. The president has requested MPD services, and our home rule charter outlines the process. The president designated Attorney General Bondi as his proxy to request services through me.
So that's what happens right there. You get a person that's in charge of 3,900 people that doesn't even know what a chain of command is. Remember, she was in charge of DEI policies within the department before she was placed in that position. And obviously, this is not the first time that this happens. Remember, President Biden was famous for doing a lot of that. Remember, Lloyd Austin was the first Black Secretary of Defense. And that was a point. He made it a point to have the first Black Secretary of Defense, not based on their merit, just based on the color of their skin. Same thing happened with the vice presidential position. He said, I'm going to select a woman VP. He didn't say, I'm going to select the person that is most qualified to be the second most important person in the country. He didn't say that. He said, I'm going to select a woman VP who may not be as qualified as a male VP. Now, if she was, that's a different story. But do you think Kamala Harris was qualified to be vice president? The woman didn't even know where she was standing sometimes. And Joe Biden did the same thing in the Supreme Court as well. Remember, he nominated Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court. And what did he say? I'm going to nominate the first Black woman to the Supreme Court. He didn't say, I'm going to select the person that's most qualified to be in the Supreme Court. He just said, I'm going to select a person that looks like this to be in the Supreme Court. Now, I'm not saying she's underqualified, but if you limit yourself to that, you're excluding yourself from selecting people that may be more qualified. So once again, I think people should be selected for positions based on merit, based on what they've achieved in life, based on their education, their operational experience, and not simply because of the way that they look or because it's going to be a first. The first Hispanic to be in this position, the first Black person to be in this position, the first woman to be in this position. We should not be selecting people based on that. And look, the reality is that corporations are not immune from doing that either. Because remember, United committed to having 50% of its new pilots that were being pushed through the pipeline be women or people of color. And the only way to meet that goal is to be more lenient when it came to testing people that look like me. Now, I want to ask you a serious question about that. How does that make the skies safer? Now, this was an issue with Charlie Kirk, and he brought this up. He said that if he goes into an airplane and he sees somebody that's Black or brown, the first thing that's going to come to his mind is, did this guy go through the same rigorous qualifications as everybody else? Now, think about it. Is he wrong for thinking that? I think that. And I'm a person of color. I think what we need to do is we need to focus on K through 12 education. I think we need to create more opportunities for Black and brown people, but not the way that they are talking about doing it, which is giving them handouts. We don't want any handouts. We don't need any handouts. What we need is a better K through 12 education system. Give us the education that we need in order to succeed in life. And when you do that, you're going to see that that perpetual cycle of poverty that a lot of us are stuck in is going to start to unravel. Remember, luck is preparation meeting opportunity. If we don't get the preparation in K through 12, how are we supposed to excel when we get the opportunity? Fix the K through 12 education system in this country. Pay teachers a fair salary. Make them want to be mentors in the classroom. Make them want to be father figures, mother figures in the classroom. Okay, so let's close with a little bit more from Pam Smith's speech on the way out the door.
But I dare not leave without saying something to my haters. Listen, I know you taught me well. We were raised in the church, Bible study, Sunday school, BTU, choir rehearsal, Wednesday night Bible study, Tuesday night Bible study, children's choir, you name it. There's enough Jesus in me. Make no mistake about it. You can say what you want to say, But I live in this city, and I felt it myself. I felt the shift. And I'm going to say it again. I never, and never will, and never would have encouraged, intimidated, retaliated, or told anyone to change their numbers. Never would I have done that.
Now, does that sound like a police commissioner or somebody giving a sermon at church? I would say the latter. You know, when I retired, I gave a fiery speech as well. But the premise of my speech was completely the opposite. I was calling people out for not doing their jobs, for falsely reporting the success of the training plans that they were creating for these countries in Latin America, for not understanding what Latin American militaries need in order to succeed in their missions. Ultimately, I think we need to have the right people in the right places. But that doesn't mean have a person there just because of the way they look or because it's a first. Have a person there based on their qualifications and the fact that they earned being put into that position. Fix K through 12 education and things will change in this country. All right, that's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay balanced.